Okay. I think we're recording now. Okay, good. So that's the only annoying thing is that this is going to be at the top, but let's now follow the directions. So this is, you've opened MuseScore for me, because I do a lot of stuff in MuseScore you can see all my assignments that I've created in times past. So you want to create a new document by clicking on scores and then new and recent, which is here. And then we click on a new score. So for choosing your instrument, I go through all of this. You want to find vocals. And we're going to do, I think I decided on the tenor voice. Okay, and then you can click this because it ends up, this just puts it in there. I don't actually have that written here, but you want the tenor to show up in your score. And then you want to click next, not done. Then from here, we're going to keep this on C major. Okay, we want C major. You are going to do a different time signature. Remember I said this Horton Ritchie textbook is kind of does it without meter, but notation programs need a meter because they don't know how to set anything up otherwise. So we're going to do 9, 1. Okay, so all those numbers, the bottom number is always so 1 is a whole note, 2 is a half note, 4 is a quarter note, 8 is an eighth note. So time signatures are pretty straightforward that way. So we can do 1. So we're going to do 9 whole notes per measure because we don't really have a strong meter. We're going to leave the tempo at quarter note equals 120. And then we are going to choose the number of measures. I have bars written here, but you are going to want, what did I put? 4 bars. Okay. And that's it for that. Title. Now we keep going. We want to enter the score information, and that's here. So the title, you can go TWA 01. Okay, TWA 01. Composer. Now, because critic assignments must be anonymous, like you should not know which student you're grading. So you can't, anything you submit to critic, you can't put your name on it. Okay. So what you can do is put start with fake, because if you just put a name anonymously, no one actually knows if that's your name or not, right? Because you don't know each other. So start with fake, and I'm going to put silly Billy for mine. But you can also just put anonymous. Okay, maybe I'll put /anon. Anyways, oops, not a non or something like that. Anyways, anything like that. Anon is fine with a dot, or anonymous. Anything like that is fine. Subtitle is Music 270 Practice and Review. So we'll do that. So it's Music 270 Practice and Review. Did I do that right? There is no lyricist, and here you put the same name that you've put up here. So I'm going to put fake silly Billy. You can, I forget how I do, if you can figure out how to put a copyright signal in, which I know how to do and I always forget. Is it this? No. Anyways, it's not necessary. So just put your name there. Sorry, Siri, I didn't mean to hit you. Okay, yes.
It's option G.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Thank you. So option G, I knew it at some point. So you can put, that's technically right, but and when you're grading it, you just need the name down there. You don't necessarily need the copyright symbol, but you can do that as well. It's actually important for music that's original to actually have a copyright symbol. Okay. So at this point, I have here click continue, but it's actually done. We're done there. Okay, so then you should come up with a page that looks like that. Now, if you notice, and for a lot of assignments, you always want it to be landscape, not portrait. You can fit more in. If we have it this way, then you have to have more lines and it's harder to see the music. So first thing is, make sure the page is letter. So the way that you do this is you go to format, which is here. page settings. And here is where you can choose, oh, is there a way to, I know there's a way to hide this. Okay. All right, so then here you can then just change this to landscape. Okay, you press okay. And now you have that in landscape. Now this is where I'm getting you to know how things work. So in measure 1, so this is measure 1, okay, you want to change the clef to alto clef. So all of the stuff that you need, if you haven't used MuseScore before, everything's here, or actually you can find them up in the, like this is like my regular program. So you want to find the alto clef, okay? So you can highlight the measure and press that, or you can drag it. So then for the next one in measure 2, I want it to be tenor clef. So you can drag it if you want, okay? Or click on it. Maybe I should make this bigger. Everyone's looking, I don't know why I have this so small. There we go. Okay. Then in measure 3, so I'm just moving, I'm now at 3D on this. Okay, I'm now measure 3, change the clef to bass clef, so I can just click here. Okay, now I'm going to be sneaky because we're doing sort of just scales in those first two, but now I want to actually have proper measures in here. So in measure 3, I want to highlight it and I want to change. So now you're done with clefs, or that you're going to come back to clefs in a second, but you're going to change the time signature from 9-1. And you can see I use weird time signatures when I'm teaching because they all get saved. But I'm going to change it now to our standard quadruple meter, simple quadruple meter. Okay, and now what MuseScore does, which is different from other music notation programs, but it takes all the remaining beats that we had in 2 measures and converts them into 4/4, which means I have way more measures than I need. But that's okay. I'll show you how to fix that in here later. Okay. Now in measure 8, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now it's this measure that we need, which I can now highlight. In this measure, we're going to now have treble clef. So you want to go back to your clefs and the regular treble clef. So remember, these are the 4 clefs I taught you and we learned so far. Okay, so now in measure 1, so I'm not doing anything with the format yet. Did I say I didn't do anything with the format? Nope. Okay, so in measure 1, this is where it will be different for everyone, what you're going to do. So we last class I taught you about our 4, actually kind of our 6 modes, right? So we had, what was the mode beginning on C? Ionian, good. Mode beginning on D? Dorian, good. We can say this class. Mode beginning on E? Phrygian, good. F? Lydian, and G? Mixolydian, and A? Aeolian. So D Dorian and Aeolian are always easy to remember because the letter that they are is their tonic, right? So you can choose any of those 6. You can't do Locrian because that's not one we're going to be using, but all these other ones we're going to be using, especially the Dorian, Lydian, I skipped Phrygian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. So I'm just going to do Dorian. Okay, so the first thing you do is choose a mode and write it in whole notes. So we are using the alto clef here. So the 2 that you have to write in, and so we have to find where our D is. So remember with our alto clef and our tenor clefs, that middle line right there is middle C. So we are going to write notes in. In order to write notes, you have to click on the little pencil and then choose your whole note. Okay, now I'll talk about that in a moment. And then you just click it on. Now, if you have a keyboard, there's ways to enter it in the keyboard, but we know our D, so there's our C, so we can either do D up there, or we can go down an octave, right? So F, E, our D is down here. Okay, I always have to go by, I know that F, A, C. Okay, so there's my D. And then we just go up as a scalar pattern. So D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and now our final D. Now in our Horton Ritchie textbook, and this is true for a lot of early music, to indicate kind of, to have more of an emphasis on the final note of your cantus, we do what is called a brev. So I'm teaching you some early church music terms, but a brev is a double whole note. Okay, it's a double whole note. So we end our scales and you're going to end your cantuses with a brev. So it just indicates that this is the most important note. It's always on the tonic. Even the first note of a cantus isn't always on a tonic. So the first note of a simple melody isn't always on the tonic, but the last note always has to be. So we're going to start that in our scales. So the brev is actually available in MuseScore. Now, if you can't see that, so I'm going to put that up here and then I'll show you. So there's my Dorian. Now, if you can't see that, you can go into settings and this customizes the toolbar. So notice I have double whole note with an I open. If I remove it, it's an I closed. Okay, so you can always do that. Okay, does that make sense? So that's just in settings. That's over here to customize the toolbar. So a lot of times that brev doesn't show up in MuseScore initially. Okay, so now we have done the first step. And you get 2 points when, if you'll notice, in this as well, this is your grading guide too, but I also have this in Critic, but it tells you how many points you're going to get for each one of these things. Each note is worth 1, the brev is worth 2. And that'll be true in all the grading that I do of your homework. If you don't put the brev in there, I'm going to take a point or 2 off. Okay, so then next, use the text palette name to, oh, I'm missing a, using the text palette, name the mode above the stave. So now we need to unclick this because now it's not going to make us write notes in the score. And you want to go to find the text palette, which is down here. You click on the place where you want the text to show, and you can either do staff text or system text. Either one of those works. And then what you have to do is write what this mode was. So we know that this mode was Dorian. Now, if you want, you can put D Dorian or just simply Dorian. Both will be considered correct. Okay, next. Text about name the note. Now, the next is add a system break on measure 1. So this means that you click the measure, go back to here and see down the very bottom one should be layout. And you want what it's called a system break right there. It's the first one. It's just like a hard return. It's this is really, I don't know if, have any of you ever been on a real, like an old time typewriter? No, yeah, some people have. So this symbol is relating to that. It's a hard return. So on your old typewriters, you used to press that button and the whole thing would go down one and all the way to the end so you can start the next line, right? So it's just like a return on your now computers. But anyway, so it's a system break. You hit that and everything after that. So because I selected this measure says it's at the end of this measure, it now goes to the next line. And MuseScore is nice. It formats all this for you. Now, one last thing, I want you to put a double bar line. So now we get to bar line. Here's all your choices. So I have that selected. I press this, and now we have a double bar line. And there's one last thing. I want you to know how to clean up and hide things. So if you want to hide anything, whether it be a note, you can press V and notice it hides it, or press V again to show it. And sometimes I find these ends of lines because they always do cautionary accidentals or cautionary clefs or cautionary time signatures. You can just click on that and press V and it hides it for you. So now that's a nice clean first line. Okay, so now we need to do measure 2. So measure 2, and if you're doing this as your assignment, do something different than I'm doing, but I'm just going to do Phrygian. I'm just going to go up Dorian to Phrygian, but it has to be when you're grading this, you have to do a different mode for the second line than what you did on the first line. Okay, there's only 4 to choose from. So Okay, so now I want to enter notes. So in measure, choose a different mode and write it in whole notes. So I said I'm going to do Phrygian. So again, I need to click on that. I need my whole note chosen, and now I can just put it in. So F, A, C. So this is going to be my E, right? So there's my C, and if you work down, that's A, G, F. So there's my E. So Phrygian starts on E, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Now I need my brev. Okay, makes sense? Now again, I'm going to use my text palette, so I have to unclick my writing little pencil, click on the note where I want, and this one, I'm going to do staff text, and I'm just going to put Phrygian this time without the E, but you could say E Phrygian if you want, but I'm just going to put Phrygian. Okay, so now that's done. Here we go. Now we want to add a system break again. So again, we go to the layout. I always find it easier just to close these up. Go to layout. There's my hard return. Okay, put a final bar line. So I want you to know the difference between a double bar line and a final bar line. So you have all these choices here. Here's our final bar line. We're going to put that in there. And again, we want to clean up the score. So notice this time we have two changes because we're changing to bass clef. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, that's just pressing V. I think that's the same with PC compared to Mac. Okay, now this is where some of your rudiments, and I'm going to do the first one of each, but I'm not going to do all of them because I want you to work on those on your own. So in measure 3 to 7, you will write 5 harmonic intervals, 1 point per lower note, 1 point per upper note, and the interval. So plus 1 point per accidental. There are a couple of accidentals in this, which I'm not going to do. But in measure 3, we're going to write a perfect fifth. The lowest note is G2. Now, if you don't know what I mean by G2, this is so that you can get a very exact pitch. Okay. Is the sun bothering you that the sun's in your face? No, it's okay, because we can close the blinds, but if you guys are okay with it, okay. So in measure 3, we are going to put the lowest note as a G2. So you have to think about this in terms of middle C. Middle C is C4. And C always starts so middle C is C4, the B below middle C is B3. Right? So C is always the one that starts the new naming. It's a little bit weird, but C is always a focus. And anyways, so if C4 was middle C, C3 is the C in the bass clef, just below the middle line. C2 is the C below, right? Which means that if we go up C2, then G2 is the lowest line on your bass clef. Does that make sense? So that's just a way of easily naming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my G there. Now, because it's in red, don't worry about it, but that's just because we've made this for the tenor, and a tenor can't generally sing that low. So that's why it's in red. It's just telling you, oh, if you actually try to get someone to sing this, the tenors aren't going to be able to sing this. We don't really care about that. This is just an exercise, but I wanted to make it for tenor voice, and that's how it works. Okay, so now we want to do a perfect fifth above this. Now we could just do the perfect fifth and do this. So that's nice and simple. We can do that. I'm going to undo this because I want you to get used to thinking about voices. You are going to need to use this by the end of the term when you have to put something into MuseScore and you have two voices that are independent of each other. And I'm going to show you that's really important here. But for now, if you can make that lower one voice 2, because 1 is always the top voice and 2 is the bottom voice. So what you can do is say, oh, wait, I entered that in voice 1 because this is what this means. So you want the lower voice to be voice 2. Okay, and then what happens is in voice 1, it now puts at rest because it's saying, oh, there's going to be 2 voices. So now when I enter, I'm going to say, okay, now I want to enter voice 1, and it has to be a whole note, and I'm going to put my, okay, so now this one, no one's going to be able to tell if you did the voices right. Okay, you can just do it all in voice 1. It'll turn it into a chord or a dyad if we want to talk about that, but 2 voice, it's going to have 2 notes. Okay, so that's, now you do that with each of these measures. So you get the lowest note. So there's a B2, a C3, a G2 again, and an E2. So those are all in this range in here. There's C3 is the highest, and then it goes down. Okay, so you do the lower voice and then the upper voice. Now we're going to do measures 8 to 12. So the first one is in measure 8, voice 2 will be F4, and voice 1 will be a 9th above, moving to an 8th above in half notes. So the lower voice has to be in whole notes, and the upper voice has to be in half notes. You can't do this in the same voice. It just won't work. Okay, so that means that you want to choose in this one voice 2 for that lower note. Okay, so in this case, and they often have a different color so that you know that you're in a different one. So F4. So remember I said C4 is middle C. So C, D, E, F, there's F4. Okay, and now it's in voice 2 because I chose voice 2 to begin with. Now I can put, I can click on voice 1 and I can go back into this measure, change this to half notes. And now we're going to do a dissonant. This is actually preparing you for, this is kind of without preparation. This is in the Projectura. With the preparation, you're going to learn about suspensions at the end of the term. So we're actually creating a suspension-ish without the preparation. Okay, but we need a 9th. Okay, so we need to, a 9th going to, what did I say? Voice 1 will be a 9th above, moving to an octave above. Okay, so F, there's my F. So a 9th will be here, moving down to here. And of course, that's in red because unless the tenor is a countertenor or can sing, or maybe into falsetto, maybe you can get that, but that's very high for the tenors. Okay, that is not within the tenor range. So that's why it's also red again when you see it. But that's how it correctly should be notated. Okay, so then you can finish all the rest of them. These are all now, of course, in the treble clef. And note for this one, the grading for this one is basically 2 points per measure, but so a point per note plus accidentals. This one, you have 4 points because you need to do, there's 4 things. You need the bottom note, you need the 2 top notes, and the final point in that measure is for the stems in the right direction. Okay, I'm going to watch what happens if I don't choose the voices correctly. So let's say I start and I'm going to do a whole note and I'm in voice 1 and I'm just going to do the same thing. So there is what it would be. That's an F4. So I'm kind of doing the first measure again. And they say, oh, right, I need a second voice. I'll click on this and you do, and I need half notes. That is what happens. And that's incorrect. So if you're grading this and you see this, that's -1 point because the stems are in the incorrect direction. But you want it to look like this. And this is because then you can clearly see the 2 notes. When the stems get going this way and the bottom stems would go up, it's really messy and it's hard to tell the difference between the 2 voices. And in fact, that means that when the stem's down, it means it's a lower voice singing it. And when the stem's up, it means the upper voice is singing it. So it means that the 2 voices are singing the wrong thing. And it's really hard to see. Okay, so that's really important. And this will be really important once we get later on in the term. Yeah.
I don't, how do you, it's like major, minor, perfect.
That doesn't matter in this second part. Yeah. But if you're thinking about in here, for these intervals, a perfect 5th only has one, so you're thinking about in terms of knowing the difference in intervals?
I mean, like in this, it just says a 9th above.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It doesn't matter.
okay.
So it's a 9th just means it's going to be either a minor 9th or a major 9th. I don't care. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is going to be what it is. I know what it is. So it is actually a major 9th going to an octave, but
Don't add accidentals.
so this second part, don't add any accidentals.
Okay.
Yeah. I've written it that way on purpose. Okay. So I'm now going to delete this because I don't want this to be confusing for you, but I wanted you to see what it would look like if it was done incorrectly. Okay, the final thing, once you've completed all of that, make sure that the remaining measures are empty. So a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm just going to put a whole note. So this last one, voice 2 will be C4. So that's middle C. So let me put something in this measure because otherwise this isn't going to work. Oops. Okay, so C4. Okay, so now that's my last measure that I have anything in it. So there's you can do there's different ways of deleting measures. You can select them and do like shift delete or something. But what's kind of easy to do here is this is another way to do it. Go to tools, remove empty trailing measures, and it should remove all the remaining measures for you. Okay, but there is you can press, I think, select it and then do shift delete is too. I think that's right, but I always figure it out and then I forget. Okay, so then this is, I mean, you'll complete the intervals, but this is essentially what it should look like now. And notice, so is my copyright? Yeah, my copyright is down at the bottom. Make sure you have everything there correct. The last stage of this assignment, and notice it automatically puts a final bar line here. So you should have a double bar and 2 final bar lines at the end of those lines. You can leave all the measure numbers in. They're going to just be in like that for you. So this would be pretending that I completed all my intervals. You would then make sure you save it. In fact, you might want to start saving it before. I haven't even saved this properly. So I often will go save as. You're going to see my whole system save to the computer. This is now going to be, make sure you save it in a place where you know. I save everything in Dropbox. Maybe I should not show you my whole computer. So I have a file for Music 270, which is way deep in my. Okay, so this is class 2. So I will submit, I'll show this, this will be up online for what we completed of class. So this is save as, and I'm going to save this as in class work on TWA01. Okay, so that's what it'll be saved as, and I'll upload that to the course site. Okay. So you can see in class work on TWA1, and I'll turn it now. We're going to turn that. The last thing you have to do is you can't just submit it as a MuseScore file. So once you've saved it somewhere and you know where that is, you now want to export. And you want to export this in 2 ways. One, notice that here format, we can do a PDF file, but we can also do audio files. So you're going to export it as an MP3 audio file as well. And this is because I want you to know how to do it. Doesn't really matter. You're not going to listen to this when you're grading it because you're just going to be looking at it. But in future assignments, when you're grading, it's really helpful to be able to listen to it because often your ears are smarter than your eyes. Your ears will hear the mistakes before your eyes will see them. At least that's the case for me. But I feel like we're a lot more intuitive with listening than we are with seeing. So I'm going to first export it as a MP3 audio. And let me just see where, yep. So it's going to save it to where I put it, right? So this is our week 1, class 2. I'm going to save it to here. That was where I put it first, the first one. And now you also want to export it as a PDF. So it's always going to do the last thing that you did. Export, and you want it in the same place. And this is so that when you upload it, it's going to upload, you're going to be able to choose the PDF file and the MP3 file. And then it's much easier for your fellow student to actually see it and grade it as a PDF. Okay, are there any questions about that? So that's now taking you all the way through this. Yeah.
Just clarify, how do you delete the access measures?
Oh yeah, so that's up here. It's tools, remove empty trailing measures, the very bottom there. But there is another way. I think it's, let me see if I can, I'll see if I can do it right now. Well, actually under edit, is that going to delete it? Yeah. Oh no, that just deleted what was in the measure. See, that's the problem with this. There's a way to, I'm pretty sure it's shift delete. Nope. Command delete. There we go. So Command Delete. I'm going to leave all that back in. But yeah, so there you go. Command Delete is how you do it. Yes.
The export button is grayed out.
That might be that you don't have the right version, or maybe you haven't saved the document. So you don't have a file that it's saved in. Try that.
Saved as is also grayed out. Like everything but new, open, and import.
Try like Control S or Command S.
Yeah, it doesn't let me save it.
Okay, that's a weird thing. Why don't we come after class and we'll just see what's going on with the program. Maybe it hasn't downloaded properly. Okay. Hmm. Okay. I can't figure, I'm actually going to stop recording this right now. I just realized I'm still recording on Zoom. And then where's my Zoom?
Figured it out. It's on a separate page for some reason.
Okay, good.